So the new edition of D&D is here, and with it we're wiping the slate clean. We're talking rebalanced classes, updated races, new feats, new backgrounds, you name it, we've got it. But how does it stack up against the old edition? Here on YouTube, you can find a lot of videos talking about the new edition of D&D. They break it down into a lot of detail. They talk about all sorts of things, the best subclasses, the best new additions, the best spells, etc, etc, etc. This video is not that, because I don't know about you, but I personally am not a min-maxer when I play, and those sorts of YouTube videos always feel a little bit theoretical for my liking, disconnected from the actual game. What I want to know is, how does this new edition of D&D actually impact a character created in the game in comparison with the old edition of the game? So that's what we're going to explore. In the following few videos, we are going to create a character, the exact same character, using both the old 2014 rules and the updated 2024 rules. And this will allow us to directly compare the end results to each other, and in doing so, we can see how and where this new edition shines and how it actually impacts the game. Or so is my hope anyway. So without any further ado, here are all of the classes in the game. Let's spin the wheel, and the first class we're going to look at today is Sorcerer. Look at that. So we need to create a sorcerer, and well, maybe this is an indication of the fact that I am a father to two young children, but when I think of a famous sorcerer, the first thing that springs to my mind is Elsa, the main character kind of Disney's Frozen franchise. Classic sorcerer if I've ever seen one. So this is literally the first time that I'm using this new builder here, so please bear with me if I get a little lost in the options. So proficiencies, first of all, we're going to go with intimidation because, well, lots of people in the movies are scared of Elsa, and we're going with Arcana due to her innate connection with the four elemental spirits and her role as a bridge between the spirit world and the human world, giving her a unique insight into how magic works. We're also going to create her at level 9. Why level 9? Well, mainly because that feels like a good midpoint in the game. You know, very few games of D&D actually make it all the way up to level 20, so comparing power levels at that stage feels kind of pointless. And by level 9, most classes have unlocked the vast majority of their core features, and so the characters will be feeling pretty close to finished by that point. So for meta magic options, we're going to go with Empowered and Quickened, mainly because they're the only ones that fit. I mean, she's definitely not careful, as seen by her frequent wounding of her sister, and she's definitely not subtle either. So yeah, I guess Empowered and Quickened it is. For subclasses, we're going to make her a wild magic sorcerer, since we see in the movies she isn't always in complete control of her magic, and she has, at least initially, no idea where her magic comes from. For the ASIs, just so you know, we're going to go with feats every single time. So first up, we're going with Elemental Adept, giving her mastery of cold magic and the ability to ignore resistance to cold damage. Feels very appropriate. At level 8, we're going to go with Infernal Constitution, which is pretty weird. I mean, certainly it used to be that we could only choose this feat if we were a tiefling, but in this version of the game, there doesn't seem to be anything stopping us from taking it. So what this feat does give us is a resistance to cold damage, which feels very appropriate for Elsa, of course, because the cold never bothered her anyway. So background next, and of course we're going to go with Noble. This gives her the skilled feat, which we're going to put into use with acrobatics because, hey, just look at her go. She's going to get cartographer's tools because she can read a map, and she's going to get animal handling because, well, she was able to tame the water knock. As for the ASI, we're going to go with Charisma and Intelligence, because she's not stupid. And finally, we get to Race. It's all the way at the back now, and of course, she is a human. She is medium-sized. She gets proficiency in Investigation, because she spends most of the second movie investigating her origins, and she seems pretty good at it. And for her origin feat, we're going to go with Tough, because that girl can take a pounding. For languages, we're going to go with Giant for her ability to speak with the giants, and we're going to go with Gnomish for her ability to speak with the rock trolls. And for ability scores, we're going to go with point buy, and at the end of all things, we end up with this spread. And now the fun part, spells. Just look how many spells she can learn. This is wonderful. So for cantrips, we're going to add in the brand new spell Elementalism, because that feels very appropriate here, as does the other new cantrip Sorcerer's Burst, which of course is going to be cold damage in her case. True Strike is now a god tier spell, so she's going to get that. And Shape Water feels very appropriate as well. And finally, we're going to go with Prestidigitation for her ability to conjure inanimate objects out of snow. So for level 1 spells, we're going to go with Detect Magic, because she's pretty good at detecting magic. Fog Cloud, because we see her conjuring fog in the movies. Shield, because look at that. And Absorb Elements, just as another good defensive option. For level 2 spells, we're going to go with Alter Self. I mean, if the spell was called Alter Dresses, it would probably make more sense. But either way, she does a lot of changing her look in the movies. And just look at that magic hair that clips right through her arm. That is totally altered. She also gets Rhymes Binding Ice for her ability to bind people with ice. Higher level spells, we are of course going to go with Water Walk, because that's one of the spells we see her do all of the time. We're going to get Protection from Energy, because she is a master of the 4 elemental spirits, so it's literally what her role is. She's going to get Ice Storm, because duh. And she's going to get Stone Skin, because she literally turned her sister into a statue, and if that isn't resistance to slashing damage, I don't know what is. There's Cone of Cold, of course, and then there's also this thing that she does in the movies that doesn't really fit with any spells, so I'm just gonna call it Big B's Hand. Yeah. And then finally we come to the tricky bits, namely her ability to create life in the form of Olaf and Marshmallow. Thank goodness, water has memory. So, weirdly enough, there isn't a spell in D&D for creating life out of a pile of snow. I mean, unless you're counting Simulacrum, but that's not what's happening here. So instead, we're going to go with Animate Objects, the object in this case being a snowman. So yep, that's right, Olaf, you are now officially not a living creature. You are just an animated pile of snow.
I don't have a skull. Or bones.
As for Marshmallow, I'm going to say that he is an ice-flavoured version of a draconic spirit. So she's getting summoned draconic spirit. So there we go. I would say that's a pretty good reflection of everything that we see Elsa doing in the movies. The only thing that we're really lacking here is a representation of her ability to see moments from the past in ice statues. But I don't know, maybe she will get that at a higher level. So we can see 83 HP, that's pretty good for a sorcerer. She has resistance to cold and poison damage, and she has a solid selection of spells. But how does this stack up against the 2014 version? Well, I'm not going to do the breakdown blow by blow of how I built her, but as you can see, I have created an identical character using the 2014 rules, following the exact same decision-making process as much as I could. So I chose the same proficiencies, the same spells, the same ASI spread, as much as I could while building her. And straight away, we can see some core differences with the end result. So on the surface, a lot of things look the same. She has the same HP, she has the same AC, most of the stats are the same with some minor alterations, but the big difference here is that in the old version, she did not have resistance to cold magic. She also didn't have as many proficiencies, but crucially, her spells suck. She doesn't have Summon Draconic Spirit, she doesn't have Rhymes Binding Ice, she doesn't even have Detect Magic, and that's to say nothing of those amazing new cantrips, Sorcerer's Burst and Elementalism, both of which are just chef's kiss. So overall, I would say the new version is better. It's not ridiculously so. I mean, fundamentally, these two characters still look very similar and they probably feel very similar to play, but there are enough differences here that I think you would definitely feel that you had more options in the game, more utility outside of battle and more tools to play with when it's your turn in combat. And ultimately, hey, that's why we play. So if you've watched this video until the end, thank you so much for sticking around. Do leave a comment. Do you disagree with any of the choices that I've made here? How would you have built Elsa in the game? And just as a little bonus, we're going to spin the wheel here so you can see which class our next of these videos is going to cover. And in the meantime, don't forget to like this video on the way out and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the week. And I will catch up with you all next time. Take care.